I Love New York Reunited recap. Thank you so much for clicking on my video, and if you're returning, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be recapping the I Love New York Reunited episode. This is a really well done reunion. We've all been saying for years that I Love New York, Flavor of Love, The Charm Schools, all of these shows that popped off in the early 2000s that were really a staple for VH1 and really put them over the top for viewership and fans. People loved VH1 during this time, and these cast members were reused on all different types of shows for VH1, and fans ate it up. It was a really high point. It was a really high moment for VH1, and we've all said at one time or another, we would love to have this group or some members of this group in that time on VH1 reality TV come back together and talk about their time on the show. All of these people who were likely in their late teens, early to mid 20s are now in their late 30s to 40s now. And it's awesome to see not only how they've aged, all of them look fantastic, how they've grown personally, professionally, mentally, emotionally, especially Miss New York herself. But not only that, but it's great to see how they interact with one another. After these shows wrap, a lot of the time, these cast members go on to build really great friendships. They either become friends or enemies or indifferent to one another. They go on to do their own different ventures. For example, David Otunga, who was Punk on I Love New York way back when, 10 years ago, is the ex-husband of Jennifer Hudson, and they share a child. He is an attorney turned wrestler. Like, he has a whole different life. I was concerned that he didn't come back because he made it fairly far in the show. I think he was top 4 or top 3. Someone else who's missing, which we'll get into this later, was Buddha. I would have loved to see him come back, but that may have been a liability. I know Buddha was kind of violent. Also, Chance. I would have liked to see Chance come back, and it seemed like the rest of the cast wanted Chance to come back. So we'll get into that, but thank you so much for clicking on this video, and we're going to go ahead and hop right on into recapping this episode. So let's jump right in and talk about Tiffany Pollard. So the way Tiffany Pollard became New York, the woman we all know and love at this point, she was truly a newbie in LA, and she was walking down Hollywood Boulevard one day after shortly having moved there. I think it was like a week possibly. And she's walking down Hollywood Boulevard with her ex-boyfriend, and they're shopping for a purse. Well, a producer shows up out of nowhere, comes up and asks her if she's single. She doesn't know who he is, so she lies and says no, she's not single, so that he'd leave her alone. She thought that he was hitting on her. Well, he then says, well, hey, I think you would be great to try out for this dating TV show, and I think you would be a great person on there. He gives her the information. She goes to the audition without even knowing who she's auditioning to date the first time around, and she knocks it out of the park. So I honestly feel like when Tiffany Pollard used to say all the time that her presence on reality TV was fate, it truly was fate. She was meant to be on television. She even once said that she used to pray to be famous. This is all according to an interview she did with The Cut. It's available on Google. You should go check it out. It's a really good interview. She talks a lot about the time on the show and the behind the scenes. After that, she comes on the show season 1. She is the first person to touch Flavor Flav. So they have all the girls lined up on these rows. And I think it's like 5 or 6 rows. And he gets out of this limo in this big pink suit and this clock. And he walks over. And the first girl who hugs him is Tiffany Pollard. The second girl who hugs him is Hoops, which is Nicole Alexander, who was ultimately the winner of season 1. Now, all through season 1, Tiffany Pollard is the star of the show. There are a lot of really entertaining people on that show. You had Hottie, you had Hoops was also pretty entertaining. You had Smiley. All the girls brought something to the show, particularly the top 9 or 10. They brought a lot to the show. They did a really good job of, trimming the fat early on. But the show itself shined because of its eclectic cast. And Tiffany Pollard was number 1 on that cast. She was the most entertaining. She was not only entertaining because she's funny, but she also played the villain really well. But she told the line to a point. So she would be the villain only to a certain point because you just love to hate her. There's this one scene of her, and they're all headed to the hot tubs, and she's in a van full of girls, and she's in the front, one of the front seats, and she's sitting next to two other women, and then the rest of the seats are packed. Well, they all start talking and answering questions to just get to know each other. I think it's their second night there, and this one girl who's named Rain, her real name is Thala, and she actually asks, no, she doesn't ask. I'm so sorry. It's Goldie. Goldie is actually asking all the girls different questions, and they're all just kind of communing and chatting and, the whole thing. So it gets to be New York's turn, who's not really involving herself. She's just looking straight ahead. And this is one of my favorite scenes of New York. And I'm having a really hard time staying composed talking about this scene. But Hottie goes, New York, what will you do if you arrive at the hot tub and Flavor Flav is there with nothing on? Now, Tiffany Pollard could have easily just said, I don't know, I'll jump in with him or I'll leave or whatever. She could have just given a straightforward answer. Instead, she slowly moves the hair from her face and puts it behind her ear, shuts her eyes, and with a very stifled laugh, seriously goes, I'm just got a lot on my mind right now, and I just really don't want to talk right now. It was such an unnecessary thing, but it was so funny. And Rain gets furious. Now, Thala had anger management problems, and it was obvious to everybody from the very beginning. She was itching to get into a fight. And she sees New York reject Goldie's question, and she just flips out on New York. And they argue the entire way up to the hot tubs. Those are just moments. And then she overhears Thala talking crap about her, saying mean things about her. She doesn't react. She goes and gets ready. And then at that later that day at breakfast, she walks downstairs and she individually says good morning to everyone at the table. And then she gets to Thala, whose her nickname was Rain, and points her and says, oh, not you. You can choke. And then continues saying good morning to you and good morning to you. And she just keeps walking. It completely uproots Thala. And she is psychotic with anger. Her eyes bug out of her head. She's practically snarling. This woman truly lost her shit. And Tiffany Pollard is just fine. She got that energy right on up off of her and kept it moving. It was hilarious. There are so many moments. If I went through, I could find you 3 or 4 moments in every episode, season 1, where she just shined. Well, it gets down to the top 2. And he picks Hoops after Tiffany Pollard slept with him the night before, which that is really embarrassing. And she handled it with style and grace. As a matter of fact, although she got rejected that night, one of the moments from that last finale episode is about her showing off her dress to Hoops, talking about, look at the fabric, look how it falls on my body. Like, it's still used as a gift today. So that was 10 years ago. So anyway, she lost the first episode, or the first season. She cries in the limo. Then the second season rolls around. She comes back midway through as a consultant to just kind of figure out who is and who is not right for Flav. He falls back in love with her, and then he invites her to be back on the show again. She's on the show. It looks like she's actually going to win, but then she does like a true about face on the boat with Flav, and she tells him she wants to be in charge, and he freaks out, and he decides, I don't want to deal with that. I don't want a woman who's bossing me around, telling me what to do, so he chose Delicious over her. This led to one of the most iconic moments in television history for me. And for no reason at all. He tells her that he doesn't want to be with her. He explains his decision. She's crying in the rain. Delicious is watching. She's crying in the rain, and she yells, you're going to bring me back to open up the same MF and wound, Flav? That's when I realized, oh, this isn't acting. Mama is serious. She's really in love with that man. And since being on the show, she has admitted, no, she was truly in love with him. They had a real connection. He has also said the same, but I think she was selling herself really short. I think she could do a lot better. Anyway, at the time, she was truly in love with him, and she's crying, and he finally says something else to her. He goes, you're going to say, you're going to tell me what to do, and I do what you say? And he freaks out, and I forget that Flav is old until he gets mad and starts yelling, and he sounds like my granddad. So And I'm like, he really is a little old man. But New York gets so mad, she turns around and she moons him and walks out. I don't think I've ever mooned anyone in anger. I have never mooned anybody in anger. For that to be your reaction is iconic. Like, who does that? So she moons him with her diamond thong on, and she walks out. Now, here's another iconic moment. And then I promise we're going to get to recapping this reunion. She walks out as she's being jilted the second time by the same man. And as she's walking out, she gives in this stunning blue number with a keyhole around the navel. And she says, "You think I give a damn because I don't?" Mind you, later in the limo, she cries. But when she walked out, you wouldn't have known the pain in that woman's heart. She walked out like a true queen. And that's how she's managed to walk through all of these other reality TV shows. Now, after that, that moment, she decided, I'm never going back to Flav. VH1 gives her her own reality show where she casts her own guys and picks a guy. The first season, she chose Tango and over Chance. And I thought it was going to be Chance. I really did. He did his hair. He had the nice little waves, but I thought it was going to be Chance. But Tango was the more mature party, and she chose Tango. However, Tango watched some episodes back where she talked some crap about his mom. And she really did. She said his mom was fat. She was overweight. She was old. They went in on that woman's age and her weight. He obviously saw that. He freaked out. He dumped her at the reunion. She gets another show. Another season. She chooses Taylor Made over Buddha, who beat up Taylor Made throughout the season. Once or twice during the season. She chose Taylor Made. So they live happily ever after. And she goes back to LA to shoot New York Goes to Hollywood. And she had a bunch of spinoffs. She had New York Goes to Hollywood, I think 2 seasons of that. And then she had New York Goes to Work, a few seasons of that. She stayed busy. She also did Family Boot Camp. So she stayed busy with VH1. They've gotten a lot of entertainment out of her. But Taylor Made broke up with her because the long distance killed their relationship. Throughout this reunion, we see the regret in Tiffany Pollard. And I don't know that it's regret as in she wants him back. I think it's regret as in I hate the way I contributed to the breakup of our relationship. And this level of accountability, this softness from Tiffany Pollard throughout this whole episode, this new woman that we see is so different than she was on I Love New York. But it's not only is she different, but she's better in her own way. It's an iconic evolution that we were all really blessed to see. So let's just jump in on the guys coming back. So she brought back a few of the guys. Let's talk about the guys that she brought back. So again, we had Vivica Fox host, and I was a little concerned because it really would have been nice to have Lala host. Vivica Fox was great, but Lala was the original host of all of these shows, so it would have been nice to have her back. And also Sister Patterson did come back. But the first guy that came back was Mr. Boston. He made it actually really far, and he and Tiffany Pollard had a really nice connection. They went on a number of dates, and he was really close with Tango. He was dubbed the best kisser in the house, and he also gave Tiffany Pollard a lot of food with a lot of ranch. That's all I really remember about him. He was kind of a troublemaker, but he wouldn't ever fight. So it kind of made him easy prey for people like Chance and Real and White Boy to bully him. And I hate that, but Tango stood up for him, and that was nice. But anyway, so he comes back and he gifts Tiffany Pollard a bottle of ranch, and she's really delighted. Throughout their first interaction, she and Sister Patterson are super, super, super excited to see him. They really are. She is just smiling and beaming and giggling. She is excited to see him. She's very happy. And Vivica Fox asks her about naming him the best kisser, and she talks about why she named him the best kisser. Now, Vivica Fox then turns to Mr. Boston and asks, was Tiffany Pollard a good kisser? You're on TV, and it's been 10 years, and it's not going to kill you to just be nice. And he takes that opportunity to truly jab Tiffany Pollard. I don't think he meant it as a jab, but it was very rude and really gross. And even if he were going to say what he said, he could have framed it in a different way. But he says no because she was a smoker and it was really gross. I was really shocked when he said that on her platform, that she really didn't have to have him back on, but she chose to, and she was so nice to him. So I was really disappointed in his response. It was a really nasty and a rude response. I wasn't impressed. I think that he just I think when he gets in the front of the cameras, he just says whatever comes to mind. And I don't know that he has a good filter, but he was truly an asshole in that moment, I thought. Everyone's reactions was like, what? Like, it was just out of nowhere. But anyway, that's all I can recall about him. And even after that moment, she was kind of over it. Everything she had to say to him or about him or respond to him, she kind of was just like, meh. She was over it. Like, he completely deflated that moment. And he was the first person out. So it could have possibly set up the show to be downhill from there, with her just being like, I don't know if I even want to continue doing this. But she prevailed, and no one else had a moment like that. But that was a really gross moment. No win for Mr. Boston. I really wish he hadn't even come back. Next up to return to Tiffany Pollard's reunion was White Boy. Now, White Boy was dubbed the worst kisser in the house, and rightfully so. If you've ever watched the show, you know that he would gnaw at her mouth. It was so uncomfortable to see. Like, he would literally jab at her mouth like a betta fish. Like, he was constantly trying to like bite at her and kiss her. And it was so awkward, and she was really polite about it. But that's when I always say women are too polite, because he really shouldn't have been kissing her anymore. That was just uncomfortable for everyone involved, including the viewers. Oh my gosh, I can't believe that a bigger deal wasn't made out of that. It was just really awkward to see. Anyway, he seems to be doing really well. He was apparently in some photo with Jennifer Lopez. And I can't remember who else was in the photo, but he was in the photo with a bunch of celebrities. And he seems to be doing okay. Of course, he has dreads and he seems super zen. So good for White Boy. So next they brought out The Entertainer. And The Entertainer was famous because he not only was entertaining, but his mom and dad were super entertaining. He is Italian and his family is super close. His mom and dad were super involved. And even when he was living in the house with Tiffany Pollard to do the show, it was revealed that in real life, he actually lives with his parents in their basement. At one point, I think either Vivica Fox or Tiffany Pollard made the joke, like, do you still live with your parents? And he was like, actually, he made it super sad. That's not what they meant. They were just kind of making a joke. But he was like, actually, yeah, well, they live with me because my dad has passed. And he made it like kind of sad. He did reveal that his father, who was super entertaining as well, had passed on. But he was really glad that he got the chance to be on TV and live out that bucket list item. And that was really nice to hear. And Vivica did a lot of talking about herself. Like, I don't know, she's not a good host because she kept talking about herself, even if it was to relate to the person at hand. It's arrogant and it's uncomfortable, and I don't know, she should have just talk about the subject at hand when you're hosting. We don't need to hear about you. It just takes away from the moment. So anyway, she did this long moment about her dad dying, which unfortunately for her, rest in peace to him, and that's really sad. My heart goes out to her. But when you're hosting, it does take away, and I felt like it brought the energy of the show way down. It was just it was awkward. I felt really bad for him, but he seems to be in great spirits, and he brought the gift he brought to Tiffany Pollard was a statue of a foot, because he was known for licking her feet. So yeah, there's that. I will say he looks great. He actually looks better now than he did on the show. He looks great. So good for The Entertainer. And it's good to see that he is still doing very well. Next up was Taylor Made. He won season 2. He beat out Buddha, who in my opinion was Tiffany Pollard's favorite. But he was a little too arrogant, and he tried to play games with her, and I was so glad she didn't pick him. He also beat up Taylor Made, so who's to say that, that wasn't the better choice? I don't know, but I didn't like him, so I'm glad that she didn't pick him. He was also on a lot of other reality TV shows, and he really didn't seem to have a whole lot going on for himself, so she made the right choice in the moment. I will say watching the two of them reunite made me feel like Tiffany Pollard actually was in love with him. She still seems enamored with him, and it's obvious that he has love for her too. She was giddy, she was starry-eyed. It wasn't like pity and like friendly like it was with Mr. Boston. This looked like he just swept her back up. Now, I don't see what she sees, but it's not meant for me to see that. But she was in love with him, and it was obvious. She did reveal that the reason that they broke up was, one, due to the distance, but she accepted full responsibility that some of the things that she said while they were arguing were completely out of line. And that ultimately ended their relationship. He seemed to agree with her. He did say that, it takes two people, but she was like, don't do that. Don't do the nice guy thing. Let me be honest. I messed us up. I wanted to actually hear more of that conversation. I'm not going to lie. I really wanted more of that conversation. I wanted a more in-depth view into what was going on with them, because it seems like she would give it another try if he would. And it doesn't seem like he's willing to. He seems to be like really in love with her as well. He seemed to really be into her, but it's obvious he's moved on. She's also moved on. But I actually feel like if he were to call her and say, Tiffany, I want to try again, by the way she behaved, I think that she would be all for it. She seemed really happy with him. And I would like to know exactly what went down, what broke them apart, because obviously it wasn't enough to break the love that they have for each other. So maybe she did cross the line. And I know that on her show, she said some pretty eccentric things, but people who know her in real life actually talk about how sweet she is as a real person. Even Boots says how nice Tiffany Pollard is as a real person. But anyway, he came back. I can't remember the gift that he sent her. Was it shoes? I don't remember. He sent her some gift as well. I don't remember what it was, but they seemed to really to have a lot of love for each other. And they looked back on their time together very, very fondly. So it was nice to see them reunite. Unfortunately, he's moved on. She's also engaged now, so she's also moved on. But the love they have was very, very palpable. It was present. And I actually wanted to see him close out the show. I wanted him to be the last guy to come out. And I wanted them to have a true one-on-one type of interview. And I know Lala would have asked the right questions and gotten to the bottom of that. But we didn't get to get that conversation. Hopefully he uploads a YouTube video or something going in depth. Or she does, one of them. Because I want to know what happened and where does this love is coming from somewhere. They were both just like teens in love when they came on the screen together. So who knows? I hated to see this end, but it seems like it was for the best. Next up, we got to see Tango. Tango seemed to be doing pretty good. Tango was the winner of season 1, and he beat out Chance, which was the brother of Real. Chance and Real came on together, and Tango won season 1. And I'm going to be honest, he and Tiffany Pollard seemed to really be into each other when they were on the show. Like, she could not get enough of him. He couldn't get enough of her. But I will say, he seemed to be a little bit more in love with her than she was with him, which, fine, go girl. But it almost felt like he's a great catch and he's a great guy. It felt like she settled for him because she wishes that she had chosen Chance. Because when asked, she did admit that a lot of the reason she chose Tango was because her mom influenced her to choose the more mature man, which was true. Chance was a child. He acted like a child. He had a little bird chest. He was awkward. He was just a little kid, and he was very erratic. He had a really bad temper. He couldn't fight, but he would still throw things around. He was a child, and Tango was a grown man. He didn't throw tantrums. So I agree that she made the right choice season 1. What ultimately ruined it was that she did go in on his mom's age and her weight. I mean, she went in. She said she doesn't remember, and that's fair. She might not. It's been over 10 years. She probably doesn't remember. What I would have loved to see her do, though, was say, I do not remember doing that. If I did, I am very sorry. I should not have done that. It's clear that he felt strong enough to end your engagement. And I fully believe that I know she said it. They played it on the show multiple times. I know she said it. They really should have played those clips at that time so she could see. But maybe they wanted to make sure that he didn't lose his cool and like it become a different type of energy. So they did the right thing. But she did make comments about his mom's age and weight. So that was awkward. But they seem to have a lot of love. He didn't seem very pleased with her comments, though, that the reason she picked him had a lot more to do with her mother than it did for her. Because he kind of cut in and Angie was like, no, we had a connection. Tiffany knows what it was. I think Tiffany does know what it was. There was some speculation that maybe he didn't please her in the bedroom as much as Chance did. And I don't remember where that came from, but that was kind of floating in the air, but that was never confirmed, so we won't even judge that. I will say I like Tango a lot. I thought his gift was creepy. Her eyelashes were stuck in his luggage when he got back home, and so he framed them. Here's the thing. I highly doubt they conceptualized this new reunion all those years back, because had that happened when he first shot the show, then yeah, bringing them back to that reunion, which is like 3 months after the show wraps, okay, that's fine. It's been 10 years. When did you think you were going to see Tiffany Pollard again? You live in Tampa. She lives in LA and New York. She goes back and forth. When did you think you were going to see her again to show her these eyelashes? I think I think he bought some new ones and just made it as a joke, but it did come off a little creepy. Also, I kind of felt like he took over the reunion when he came on, and I would have liked to see him play it cool a little more, but he took over the reunion. Even though he says he has a girlfriend, he was practically salivating at Tiffany Pollard, and she was eating it right on up. So their energy was nice. I'm not going to lie. Their energy was good energy. It was revealed that Chance was not coming back. He declined, even though he just seen Tiffany Pollard recently and they had really good vibes and they were still on good terms. He did not come back. I wonder if that has to do with the fact that he's shooting a show on Zeus, another love show, and it's not as popular. It's not on VH1. It's not done by Viacom in any way, but it's done by Zeus, and he's probably, I don't know if it has something to do with maybe his contract or the fact that he's under contract with Zeus. Maybe he can't appear on VH1. I don't really know. It may have had something to do with that, like a legality, because I just don't see him missing this opportunity to be on TV again, one, and then to be on TV again with Tiffany if they had great vibes. He may have known that they were going to want to talk about Real, and he just may not be there. He may not be in a place where he can talk about his brother who's passed. So who knows what's going on. But obviously, since Chance didn't want to show up, they still had to proceed with remembering Real in the best way that they could without his brother there. But his name is Ahmad Givens, and he passed away due to cancer a few years ago. And it was really sad. He also had 2 shows on VH1 as well. Chance also, again, has another show, but it's with his twin brother. But R.I.P. Real. He was one of the sweetest people we ever saw. He was definitely one of the best people in the house. He treated Tiffany Pollard with a lot of respect, contrary to his brother. But he did pass away, so rest in peace, Real. Last but not least, we had Million come back as a hand-picked favorite of Tiffany Pollard. And the reason she picked him, he was a fan favorite. The reason he was on the show was because during that time when they were casting, they did a MySpace competition where you did a casting video and then the internet voted for you. And the top 3 or 5 people got voted into the house, and he was one of those people. He had some of the highest votes. He left the first night, but Tiffany Pollard wanted him to come back to talk about his story. He was wrongfully accused of murder after being on the show. Once he was wrongfully accused of murder, he was sentenced to, I think it was life, 50 years in prison. He did 6 of those years. He was able to prove his innocence, and then he got out after 6 years and was acquitted. After he was acquitted, he then sued and was given a $13 million settlement. And good for him, first of all. That's great that he was able to not only get out, because there are a lot of innocent people in prison. He was able to get out. He was then able to start over, and then he was able to get a settlement. All of those are wonderful for him. I was a little bit peeved that they shared the settlement amount. If he shared that, fine, and he seemed to be okay with it. He corrected them on the amount, and he added $1 million. The only thing, which I find is interesting, she called him Million. But the only thing that I would say I was really uncomfortable with is that they shared that settlement amount on such a national platform. It's just never a good idea to go into detail about your finances in shared spaces and in public spaces. I think it's important to kind of keep that information under wraps. Now, I'm sure that's Googleable, but I likely would not have shared that so willingly, because that brings all kinds of crazy people out of the woodworks, and it's really not great for your safety. I'm 100% of the belief that you keep your under wraps. Like, don't share your money stuff. So anyway, he seems to be doing very well, and good for him. He deserved every penny and then some. They stole 6 years of this man's life. Not only that, But he's also giving back. He has organizations to help underserved communities and help people in the same position that he was in the same boat as Jason Flum. I always applaud those organizations that try to free the innocent and make sure that, prison reform is constantly in the news and constantly something that we all need to advocate for, because it's not about pampering criminals. It's about making sure that our legal system is a just system and it's a fair system. And at this time, it is not. And so what he's doing, what Jason Flum is doing, what all those people who are trying to advocate for more fair and safe justice system, good for you. And I'm glad that they're using their resources to make the world a better place for all of us. So good for Milian, and I'm glad that Tiffany brought him back. And lastly, these are some of the guys that I wish had been able to come back. Again, I don't know if Buddha's was a safety issue or what, but Buddha, he was the one who said Lawrence Fishburne sent flowers. David Otunga, who was Punk. He's, again, Jennifer Hudson's ex-husband or boyfriend. Wolf, he's the one who lost his chance because he farted in that trailer with her. This guy who said he was a millionaire and then they exposed his credit score and his money. And then T-Bone, I just thought he was sweet and suave, and I would have liked for him to have a lot longer of a shot. But most of all, I want to know what the heck happened to Pootie. This is the guy, he was my favorite cast member. He's the guy that when they had to go in and show New York and Omarosa and Sister Patterson how they were going to make money to take care of Tiffany Pollard, he broke down and he said, I have $8. The repo man is looking for my car as we speak. It's in my friend's garage. And when he walked out of there, he ran down the stairs and collapsed. It's not funny. I don't know why I'm laughing. I have an uncomfortable laugh. When I'm uncomfortable, I laugh at things. This is not funny. But he ran down the stairs. He fell. And then when Tango tried to like pat his back, he just collapsed like a little toddler and slid down the steps, and he was crying. And then Sister Patterson took him out to eat so that he could calm down. And when they went out to eat at the diner, he was like looking all around as if he was on the run, and he was like super nervous. We never quite got to the bottom of what was going on with Pootie. I would have loved to not only see him redeem himself, show us where he is now, how is he doing now, but also we need to talk about that. You can't just do that on my TV screen and feel like you're going to get away. I need to know what's going on. So I'm going to try to find him on social media if he has a social media. I'm going to try to find him and find out what's going on with my guy Pootie. That's the one guy most fans were like, man, we wish Pootie had come back. Where's Pootie? Asking all the questions about Pootie. I would have loved to know where Pootie is as well. But unfortunately, he didn't make it back. So that's going to do it for today. The reunion was epic. I loved it. I would have loved for them to have all the guys back. I understand due to COVID that the reunion had to be structured in a different way, with everyone being separate and all of that. But it would have been nice to see everybody. But it was a great reunion. Vivica Fox did a wonderful job. VH1 did a wonderful job of putting it all together. And of course, it was always lovely to see Miss Tiffany Pollard. I know that she has another show coming up, and I want to know more about that. So I'm going to just keep a watch out on her social media, because she is the queen of reality TV. She is phenomenal, and I'm glad that she's getting her flowers, because I actually don't like when people call her the meme queen, because it's reducing who she is. She single-handedly elevated the entertainment factor of every show she's on, no matter what it is. And it's not gimmicky. She's truly just being herself. So I love Tiffany Pollard. I'm so glad that she is still receiving this love 10 years later. She is still epic and funny. All of the Flavor of Loves, I Love New York, Daisy of Loves, Charm Schools, all of those are on Hulu right now, and they're also on Amazon Prime. So feel free to check them out. I actually watch I Love Flavor of Love and I Love New York every year. I watch them at the top of the year. I binge the entire series of all of them. The Flavor of Love, the I Love New York, Chance of Love, and Charm School with Monique. So I binge all of them, and they're still just as entertaining. They're actually more entertaining now because I'm older and I'm finding it more comical rather than the behavior wasn't that far from my own, because I was also like a psycho early 20s person. I wasn't, front of that brain wasn't fully formed. But now that I'm like an adult and I watch that, I'm like, these people are crazy. And it's so entertaining to watch. So I recommend you go back and watch it and binge it and remember why we fell in love with Tiffany to begin with. But that's going to do it. Thanks so much for watching. Feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. I'm interested in hearing what you have to say, and I will see you next time. Bye. you.